Bully Test. That is the 21-day tummy diet cookbook that's available on Late Night Parent. But I think in the queue right now, I'm looking, and it looks like we've got someone coming in here from Tennessee. And it's none other than my personal friend and soon to be yours, Sports by Sharona, who is, the portfolio is so long, Sharona, I'm just going to just read it as is. I'm going to say the host of Game Over Sports on 730 Yahoo Sports, the Extra Point on National Grid Network. I know they were recently renamed. NFL Zone Blitz, and she writes stuff for Players Insiders and NFL Female. Your friends and mine, Sharona.
Well, thanks for having. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, please. It's my pleasure, because there's been so many occasions where I've sat in on other shows and you were a guest, like a guest or expert analyst, and I said, you know what, there's so much craziness going on with NFL, with whether it's domestic violence, whether it's parenting this week, people getting deactivated, people saying, owners saying, oh, this person is available for a second or third game. Sharona, what in the world is going on?
I think that the NFL and its 32 teams are kind of blowing in the wind right now. They're dealing with an unprecedented level of criticism, not just from their fan base, but from the media, and they're starting to see backlash from their corporate sponsors, because their sponsors are as companies do when it starts to hit people in their pocketbook. That's when you start to see them scurry around and try to figure out how to fix the problem. And they've got a problem.
Oh, they got a major problem going on right now, because it seems like every other minute I'm getting an update on my phone. This person has an issue. That person has a possible issue. And I'm not going to drop any names tonight, because I don't think they've been validated as of yet. But, if I could drop a name, I just heard Brandon Marshall. I just heard this person. I'm like, oh my goodness. So this, the $9 or $10 billion baby, what in the world is going on? But Sharona, if you could just briefly just enlighten us on this domestic violence problem.
Well, it's a societal problem. What we're seeing certainly isn't isolated or limited to the National Football League. We see it in other areas of our life. I think the problem that we're seeing is, even though the NFL has long had an issue with this, like I said, just like you see in society, they've also had a very long history of ignoring that they've had a problem, and then they probably would have continued to do so, except that there's, as is common now, in the digital era, there became available videotape of the Ray Rice incident. And when you have something like that, while they had to see the first tape in the series of events, we saw the second tape, the aftermath, early on. Didn't see actually what happened, the actual assault, until very recently. It brought it home, and it's very hard to ignore the violent nature of that act.
I think you hit it on the head, because I think you and I, Lee Val, Ty Vandenberg, and Thomas Murphy, otherwise known as Murph, had a conversation, I don't know, was it like 4 months ago, and we were just going in on Ray Rice and going in on the NFL, and, I'm tweeting out pictures that were still on NFL.com of the breast cancer awareness Ray Rice jerseys, and I'm like, how is this stuff still up here? I'm getting worked up, and I'm sitting there hammering my keyboard, because I'm like, something's wrong here, because we saw, like you said, part 2 of the tape. Part 2 was more than enough for me to say, get this guy out of here.
Right. I know. What else did you need? But I guess I think the thing that bothers me the most about that whole incident, besides how the NFL, through its commissioner Roger Goodell, responded and handled it, the thing about me that bothered me the most was the very typical attempt to try to blame Janae Palmer Rice now, before you had access to that. You shouldn't have needed the first videotape, but ultimately you did, because there were some people who were trying to blame her and say she instigated it. Talking about, some very prominent people on media outlets said that, and I don't want to name names, but when the first videotape, the first portion of it, the hit inside the elevator, when it became available, that avenue was no longer available. You saw what actually happened.
You know what? You won't name names. I'll respect that. But you have some people that really showed their tails when they were mentioning, well, maybe she instigated the situation. I mean, I'm like, stop it now, stop it, because
not only is it disgusting for someone to do that, it's also very dangerous, because it does continue to to reinforce that, and to it's so hard for because the gut reaction is to think, well, she must be lying. And I don't say that for me. I don't have that, but it just seems to be what you see. So many people don't want to believe it, I think. They don't want to think that these things actually do take place, or that they don't take place in the numbers. The numbers are frightening. They're anywhere between 1 to 4 or 1 to 5, depending on which of the latest studies you want to go by, of women who have gone through this.
Someone just sent me a text. It's very disturbing, and it said from Jonathan Dwyer, who was just deactivated, and he said, "I'm going to one up Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson," and it's that type of mentality that's going to take this league down. It's going to take this league down, number one. And, just as you said, socially, we have a problem. We have a problem because, for me, growing up in my household, something like that is despicable. And you're told from day one, you don't put your hands on. So, it's so funny because with the first guest, I was speaking about my 13-year-old daughter and my 7-year-old son. And sometimes they get, my son will want to start wrestling his sister. I'm like, I'm grabbing him. Like, okay, enough. That's it. You don't put your hand on your sister, because you kind of wonder, where does this stuff start, Sharona, that it's like an epidemic right now? It's like, go ahead.
No, I think that it's a very complex issue, and I do think that there are two incidents right now that I think are going to have a very important secondary, I don't want to use the term benefit, but secondary ability, because it's going to create discussion, and that's the Adrian Peterson situation. And then you don't want to tell people how to to raise their kids and all of that, but if we don't have a discussion about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, because I do think that a lot of these things start at a young age, and you have to, I think above all else, we have to really work hard to eradicate the notion and the message, the very strong message that you see in the media, that women are nothing but property and prizes to be distributed and won, that they're not valued, beyond the image that you see of women in, particularly in sports, because it's such a women in sports, they're so sexualized, and you see that too in other areas, which is another topic. I mean, the sexualization of young girls is getting younger and younger, which is something else that I think we've got to have a discussion about. But it starts at a young age, and I think that we've got to start having candid discussions about why we do have these things, why it does continue to be a problem in the National Football League and in larger society.
No, I think you're onto something. There needs to be some type of town halls from our folks in leadership. And I'm not saying politicians, I'm not saying community leaders. Someone needs to step up and say, okay, this isn't right. So, I mean, because it has to start, I'm going to say more at a grassroots level, where you get that message out. Because if you're not pushing an agenda, I think it would come best from that person. And then it could mushroom and kind of start. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it has to come in large part. I think what you're seeing, one of the great things that, if you can, well, forgive me for saying that there's a great thing to come out of this, but I think that you have to take whatever teaching opportunities you can get from bad things that happen. One of the things that you're seeing is that women are really starting to push to lend their voice to the discussion and to make sure that their voices are heard in the discussion. I think that's very important.
Oh, definitely. And the one thing I will say is, I'm not sure if it was tonight or if it was last night, but the Worldwide Leader was putting on a discussion on the radio and on their main website, kind of symposium to talk about domestic violence and kind of talk about where we are, how we got there, and where we need to get to kind of like eradicate this problem. But unfortunately, we're running out of time. I want to say, Sharona, this is such a conversation that we might have to have another session to.
I would love to.
These stories progress, because I think for the most part, you have a lot of people that are following the media, and they're watching and they're saying, okay, you just now it's the information age. Everyone's learning. Everyone's like, okay, what's going on? And like you said, the information is coming so fast, but we definitely have to have you come back. Sharona, I know how to get in contact with you, whether it's through Twitter and or Facebook or giving you a call on your mobile. Tell our listeners or late night parents how to get in contact with you, because your portfolio is so large.
Well, the easiest way to get in touch with me is to just follow me on Twitter, and you can keep up with my comings and goings there. You can follow me there at Sports by Sharona.
Wonderful, wonderful. And like I said, your blogs, the stories that you have told that touched me personally, I mean, you're right, just wonderful, heartfelt, and want to thank you. So we're going to say one time for our friend, Sharona. Thanks so much, Sharona.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So we're about to come to a close, but we had a really great show, really positive, strong, so many different topics that were covered, from the parenting with our lead guest, Janet Allison, parent advisor, was talking with us about